Hey guys, George here, and actually I should say, ladies and gentlemen, George here, and what I'd like to bring to you today is a little tutorial on how to declare office and home expenses using UFile. So this is UFile online, by the way. There's a slight difference between the online and the um, desktop product, but after all is said and done, they're 99% accurate in both respects. So office and home expenses. What's new this year is the federal government and the provincial government here in Quebec have gotten rid of the flat rate amount because that was pandemic related, apparently. Um, I think personally, and this is not does not reflect the views of my employer. It's simply my own perspective. And keep in mind, I'm neither a lawyer or a um, uh, tax lawyer or an accountant. I'm simply George. So this is for educational purposes only. Um, so, from my perspective, it would have been a lot simpler if we had a uh, a lump sum amount or a fixed rate amount that was reasonable, because it would have made things a lot more quicker and faster to process and assess without having to hold on to nitty bitty receipts and justifications and whatnot. Just give people an amount that they can, you know, figure out quickly, and subsequently, in terms of collecting the tax and assessing the returns, things are much easier. Put the pandemic aside. But anywho, um, we have to live with what we have and what we get. So in this example, I have Mr. Ted Yates, one of my favorite poets, and not related to any particular person. And everything here is hypothetical. He was born on August 13, 1996. I have a hypothetical but valid social insurance number. Let's say for the purposes of our example, he lives in Quebec and marital status is single. Keep things as simple as we can. Gender, if you're in Quebec, this is a mandatory question for Revenue Quebec purposes. Unfortunately, um, did your mailing address change? This is a question we have to answer yes or no year after year. And let's go on to identify where he lives. Again, all this information is make-believe. And what I'm interested in is actually uh, showing you the data entry that you need to do in order to uh, come to a reasonable amount. So let's say they live in Montreal, province or territory is Quebec again, and a hypothetical postal code. Usually postal codes in Quebec start with either the letter H, J, or G as in George. And let's do this. So yeah, hypothetical address, and is your home address the same as your mailing address? I'm not sure if you have to or you don't have to answer that. Usually there's a red dot besides the field if you have to answer it, and a phone number is a must if you want a net file. Make sure it's a valid phone number. Okay, and click on next, and of course we have the typical CRA questions: language, English, no to first time filing. We don't have assets abroad, and principal residence, we didn't sell it, and we're not diplomats or any um, persons that not um, are exempt from tax. Do you have Canadian citizenship? I would strongly recommend that you type yes for each of those answers. Accept email notifications. We'll keep things simple because I don't want to come up with a fictitious email address. Foreign mailing address from the CRA? No. Keep everything domestic. And of course, if you're in Quebec, you have your own tax return to file. Employment expenses between federal and Quebec, there's slight differences, but by entering the federal entries, you'll get the Quebec done automatically. No for first-time filer, no for living alone. Let's say he has a roommate. And do you wish to request an accelerated refund? That's either yes or no. It depends on you. If you answer yes, keep in mind that they will assess your return for the refund you asked for, and then they may reduce it if they don't agree with your calculations. Okay, so no for that. Virtual currency, no. Solidarity tax credit, we'll pretend that this person makes too much money to claim it. Quebec tax shield, always answer yes by default and let Revenue Quebec calculate it. Reason being is there's too many carry forwards to take into consideration, and at the same token, the government should have that on file in order for them to make an accurate or more accurate calculation should you qualify for it. Select the notification method, just no change, and consent to receiving online correspondence. I'm putting no for the sake of simplicity. Now, Quebec insurance plan, a drug insurance plan, everybody in Quebec has to have one if they're employed, and we put our own in this case. And now, I have no idea why it came up with the solidarity tax credit. We can simply ignore this and just make sure we said no. We put yes. So let's say no. That's data entry, and we can get to the crux of the problem. Every time you press next, the tax return actually saves itself, as indicated down here. All right, so we're on to the meat of the situation, the nitty gritty. So we have T4 already ticked, and then we'll go for employment expenses. Next, let's enter a T4, and let's say this fellow has modest to high income. He works for Canco A, and he made $67,800. Box A shows $70,000 because the difference being, like I told you guys before, I'm horrible in math. 70,000 minus 67,800. Wow, that's a lot. 70,000 minus 67,800 is $2,200, which probably can be explained by having an amount or a taxable benefit that's taxable only in Quebec under Box J. You may also have an amount in Box 85. Where's Box 85? Ah, there it is. Employee paid premiums to a private health plan. Let's say that's about 1,800. Good. All right, keep it nice and simple. Here we go. Let's put about 3204 for this amount. You'll basically copy the amount off your T4. For those of you that do tax data download, my heart goes out to you. Personally, and that's only my opinion, I don't recommend tax data download for a lot of reasons. It is not as accurate as it purports. You might have to do additional entries to reconcile Quebec to federal, and nobody's obligated to report to you the ACB, adjusted cost base of your investment, so you might be overstating your capital gains if you're using the tax data download system. I prefer to do my own data entry and review my work before I send my return. That's just me. If you guys want to trust the software that you're using, and it doesn't have to be UFile, it can be any UFile, that's your prerogative. All right, so 3,200 there. I'm just getting somewhat reasonable amounts off the top of my head. And 782 there. We might have underpayments or overpayments, but UFile will reconcile that. RPP will put 1,500 and $3,000 for pension adjustment, which is usually 2 times whatever the RPP amount is, and 423 for PIP, and federal tax deducted 7,100 here and 8,000 there. Basically, that's all I got to do. And let's say for the sake of this calculation, I also contributed $5,000 to my RSP. And my RSP deduction limit based on my notice of assessment from the prior year is $87,000 because I didn't contribute the full amount every year after year. Shame on me. And the first 60 days, I went to the Royal Bank and deposited my $5,000. So that's the basic crux of the return. Now, what is important is how do I enter my employment expenses? So I go to my employment section expenses on the left-hand display. I am a salaried employee. with office and the home expenses. And basically, you may want to fill out this section here, which is with it's it's with respect to the T2200 that you received. Um, I typically do not fill this out, but you would or you should if you have a GST QST rebate allowed to it. So basically, people that are engineers and pay engineers or nurses that belong to a professional order most likely will be able to get the GST HST for their professional dues, and they would have to fill this section out. And I highly recommend just filling out the net amounts and not putting anything for allowance. Just complicates things. So go to home office expenses right off the bat. And um, I like to keep a spreadsheet here as well as a, a, the record in um, in UFile. And look, before you do your tax return, there is some homework involved. I believe in good record keeping, and Excel is a great place to start for record keeping and making sure that the two amounts that you collected, that you added up with your receipts, ultimately jives with what you enter in UFile. So let's keep a record here, a hypothetical record. They asked me for heat, and they asked me for electricity, home internet. Insurance premiums is for commission employees only, so you can skip that. We're doing one for an employee. And then automatically for UFile, if you're a commission salesman and you're putting these types of expenses in there, UFile will automatically optimize the higher of the two, either the commission expenses or excluding the commission expenses and claiming the ordinary expenses. Whichever is more advantageous is what you end up getting. So maintenance and repairs, and then property taxes, that's commission employees only, telephone, and office rent. Well, we're going to exclude office rent because we're homeowners still, despite all the calamities happening out there. So heat, let's say that will equal to $260 times 12. Maybe you'll find this too low. I like to format myself as well. So click here and put comma. I like that format. Electricity, let's say there's $120 times 12. Well, got to put the equal sign there. Home internet, let's say $72 times 12. Maintenance, we only had $40. And phone, let's say another $62.50 times 12. Now we'd like to have the subtotal. So let's put subtotal there and use the sum function to get the sum, or the total office and the home expenses, which we need to prorate to get to the amount that we can claim. And let's just put in double R underline here. Font, where would that be? Here, okay. Let's do a double underline, top and bottom. There you go. So that's a little subtotal. Now, the other thing you need to note is that there is a place on the CRA website where you can claim these, calculate these expenses. I'm going to put a link in the description below. Let's go back to Excel here and put it there. Oh, let's put it a little bit lower. X, put it on row 24 because we won't need it. Now let's go this way. 23, we're doing it for 2023. Was it your residence? What is your residence situation? We own. We're owners. That's what we said. Uh, are we claiming commissions? No. Um, is it a common shared space or a designated workspace? Now, the difference between one and the other is literally a designated workspace is a room with an enclosure, meaning a door. It cannot be a temporary door. And it has to be used exclusively for work. If at any time, um, if at any time you use it for personal or another person uses it, the amount you can claim has to be prorated to reflect only your portion that is used for exclusively for work. And unfortunately, I've come across jurisprudence, and I won't quote any jurisprudence, but I've read many jurisprudence where even doctors having a clinic in their basement end up being reassessed based on the traffic on the carpet, the office carpet. It seems that there's a portion that is going towards this personal residence, a portion that is going to indoor and outdoor through a secondary door. In other words, there was evidence that that space, although it was a makeshift clinic in the person's basement, was being used for personal purposes, and the good doctor had his expenses for office in the home diminished greatly. Now, the CRA says that the CRA says there. That's the CRA. The CRA says that you have to use a reasonable um, portion. Now, what do they mean by reasonable? Ultimately, what you need to know is that the CRA does not have the final say in what has to be reasonable. If there is any dispute between yourself, your accountant, if you have an accountant, and the CRA, ultimately you might have to file an objection, and a court judge can ultimately decide what is reasonable. And the person with the most amount of proof perseveres. So if you have your proof and you have your homework, an Excel sheet is one of them, it will be harder for the CRA to reassess you. Let's leave it at that. So let's put common for now. And then square feet, square meters. Let's put square feet. Now, calculate your common workspace in your home. Calculate, okay, let's say you have a small office of really small, 5 by 5, that's 25 square feet. 5 by 5, yeah, 25 square feet. Oh, wait a second. How to calculate a common shared space in your home? Common shared space in your home required. Okay, let's say it's 25 feet. What is the finished area of your home? And what is included in the finished area? Let's see. Hallways, bathrooms, kitchens. I think they forgot basement and garage as well. Those. Okay, let's put that at 3,200. Got a huge home, I suppose. Hours you work in the common space. So let's put that at, oh, look at that. They came up with practically the same thing I did. I don't know how I came up with 25 and 3,200, and coincidentally, it's all the same. So let's say you work a good 40 hours a week. Okay. All right, we got it, we got it. And let's say we work, how to claim a period of time you worked in within a year. Okay, let's say we worked 11 months because we took a month off, right? So let's go here. 2023, 01, and 01. And let's say here November, let's say November 29th. Okay? Now let's go with our amounts. Here we go. Heat. Heat would be 3,120. Okay. Let's go, let's expand this. 3,120. Okay. Other home expenses, that includes workspace from there to there. I just multiplied everything by 12. Oh well, let's say this is for 11 months instead, okay? Um, Total maintenance cost. All right. You know what? Just to make things simple, let's just put the total there, okay? 6214, okay? 6214. There you go. They kind of ask you the details, and I would say, you know, copy down the details into your Excel sheet. Make sure everything coincides. But to expedite things, I'm just putting the total in here, and I have 6214. Calculate your expenses. Let's see what they give you. Summary of employment use. $11.81 is the employment use portion. Now, if you find this reasonable, what you need to do, go back to your Excel sheet and put equal sign 11.81 is your reasonable amount, okay? And then from the 6214, subtract the 1181, and you get 6202.19. All right, and then here you got 6214, and let's format everybody the same way. Format painter, oink. That's a good thing. And then to find out your ratio, you got to go here, equals personal over total, and you have practically 100% of your expenses being personal. 99.80 or 99.81. Let's see what happens when you enter that ratio into UFile. Let's put everybody here into in there. So 3120, 3120 for heat. I want 1440 for electricity. Home internet access was, I know, I'll just put this here. So home internet access, rate 64. Maintenance, the common area, just 40 bucks. We had to change the lock. And telephone. Telephone was 750 bucks. And now that ratio was 99.81. So personal portion, 99.81. We're going to be slightly off. We won't get $11 exactly, or 12. Let's see. Tax return. You made changes. Go ahead and leave. Yes. Are you ready to buy? So I'm going to pause the video on my end here because I have to buy this. Well, just to expedite things, I'm going to go to review because that's what we are going to do. We have to do. And first and foremost, see if we can unblock the calculation errors. Click here to fix. Actually, I did make a little mistake, so UFile alerts me to the fact that I have to identify the employer. Okay, fair enough, but I don't want to, you know, do the whole form because it's not mandatory. Now let's take a look at review. Add one mandatory field. I'm getting back a sizable refund. And under review, you can actually check your return before you buy it. And I got 1181. Easy breezy. So peasy. I got 1181 for my office and the home expenses. You can also review your Quebec return. Yeah, there you go. You got 67,800, which seems about right. Do you get any um, overpayment of QPP and EI? I don't think so. There might be underpayment. There you go. Everything looks good so far, and I got the proper amount of employment expenses. So there we go. How about Quebec? Quebec is more restrictive with office and the home expenses, but we got the same amount. There you go. Now, ordinarily, you have to go through the tax return, PDF, save, net file. I won't cover these steps because it's really not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show you how to use these tools at your disposal to get the tax return done. I hope this video was helpful. Do like and subscribe and tell your friends about this channel. Um, you know, I do have a day job, but your likes and subscribes do help me, morally speaking, in terms of increasing my morale and validating that these videos are useful. And if you do, I'll continue making videos, but if you don't, I might have to consider just closing it down. So thanks for the views. Take care.